Keep an eye on that. So the president's speaking at 8 o'clock. We'll see what happens. But remember, it's oil, coronavirus headlines, and stimulus that moves the market. We had no good news on all three of those fronts. Absent any good news on those fronts, the market drifts lower.
Finally, Mike, some headlines out of Italy just now. The prime minister closing all shops except for food and chemists all over the country.
Yeah, so that's the big question, is just exactly how analogous that is to what we are headed for. The market is not necessarily twitched on every one of these incremental headlines this week, but it does seem as if, combined with what the president might say tonight, we're going to have to find a new way of characterizing, what the overall impact is going to be
also
here in
makes
business
you
curtailment.
Sort of understand why the president and all the bankers were in agreement that small business is going to need help. According to Conti, bars, hairdressers all over Italy. I mean, just think about Manhattan and what the impact of something like that would be.
And remember, restaurants work on a very thin margin. A lot of them are borrowing money right now. They go down 50% for 3 months. They're not going to come back. And it's money that's lost. Even if they come back, you're not going to go back to your favorite restaurant and eat twice as much 3 months from now or drink twice as much.
Of course, tonight, a special report, 7 p.m., markets in turmoil. Be sure to join us for that. In the meantime, that does it for the closing bell.
Fast Money begins right now.
And it was certainly another brutal day for stock investors today. The Dow falling nearly 1,500 points. Economic fears over a slowdown starting to run rampant. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fast Money. I am Brian Sullivan. The Dow falling nearly 6% today. Small caps down again. The benchmark Dow index now down 20% from its February 12th record high. Outside, of course, of that 1987 one-day plunge of nearly 23%, this has been the fastest slide to 20% down over multiple days ever. Portfolios everywhere were slammed, but perhaps there maybe is a little bit of good news. Look at this. Bond yields actually rose. The benchmark 10-year going up to 0.87%. Does that mean the bond market may be suggesting the worst of the selling may be over? We're going to find out. Meantime, the banks, despite those yields, battered. Even as the nation's top CEOs wrap their meeting with President Trump at the White House. We'll get more on that in minutes. And perhaps the biggest shock in what was a shocking day is Boeing. Boeing shares down another 18% today. Boeing, really one of the bluest of the blue chips, now has lost half its value in just 6 months' time. We'll dive into why. Joining us for the next hour to walk you through all of this, Karen, Dan, Tim, and Guy. Welcome, everybody. Another big night, a very difficult night for a lot of people out there, pension funds, state pension funds, companies. And Guy, I think probably the question to you and everybody else around the panel and to a lot of our viewers who may not be market pros tuning into CNBC for the first time in a couple of, time because of what's going on. Do you sell now if you still own stocks? Do you ride this out? Do you see any kind of a sign of a stock market bottom?
Well, you mentioned the bond market turning. I mean, you can interpret that as a good sign. Maybe the bond yields, which probably led us down in the S&P, maybe the fact that yields seemingly are starting to rise a little bit, maybe they'll lead the S&P 500 up. But to answer your question, now's really not the time to do a whole lot.